Welcome back to Mallala Raceway, about 10 seconds away from the start of round number 6 of the Shell Ultra Touring Car Championship. Brock goes head-to-head with Longhurst and the debut of the new Nissan. Racing, Brock misses the start. The Nissan gets up behind the pair of them, has to go for another gear. Longhurst tries to carry on the outside, but it'll be Brock to the first turn. Good start there from Dick Johnson and also John Bow as they sweep down towards the pit turn, where Brock will take over command. Heading down the short pit straightaway to the right-hander. Looks like 98 Joe Sommariva has gone off there in the Commodore. Let's not worry about that. As we head down to the right-hander at the end of the pit straight. And there you can see Peter Perfect. What a perfect lead into the first turn after I thought enough to start. And joining us, of course, for the touring car action, Stephen Titmus. And, of course, Bathurst 4-time winner, Allan Moffat. Welcome aboard, guys.
Thank you very much, Michael. Peter really wanted to get a good start. He needed to get into the first corner first, naturally. But the second corner, which is a sweeper here at Mallala, he would have been on the outside of the track. But he got a nice start ahead of Longhurst. Tony actually faltered on the line. Peter didn't get a brilliant start, but at least he got away. And that gap he's got now is just a nice, comfortable lead over the field.
Yeah, Brocky showed the pace in practice and in qualifying, and now he's also showing the pace in the early laps of this race. He's got a lead of about 4 or 5 car lengths over Tony Longhurst.
Coming around now for the completion of the first lap, and it is Brocky leading from Tony Longhurst. Dick Johnson, a great start. Johnson's up to third. Mark Skaife in the new Nissan four-wheel drive twin turbo GT-R sits right in behind Dick Johnson. All of them just putting a wheel over the curve. Now, the thing to watch today with the Nissan, I think the thing that struck just about everyone here, it might be the best handling car in its debut appearance, but watch it come off a corner and work the next straight.
Yes, well, that's where the traction on all 4 wheels, Michael, gives it something to think about. And there he is executing a nice passing move on one of the Shell cars already.
Well, that's Dick Johnson. Down on the inside, Mark Skaife. The car fairly sizzles down to the next turn, but there's Brocky doing it for Mobile in 0.5. Slowest corner on the racetrack. Longhurst still runs in second. I would think Mark Skaife would now be to third. Followed by Dick Johnson, who's under siege from his teammate, John Bow. And right behind them is Colin Bond, hanging in there with them too in the Caltech Sierra, and then Alan Jones, one back behind him. And also a good start from Andrew Madecki, Glenn Seaton in there, Larry Perkins, then followed by Jim Richards and Neil Crompton today, driving the Holden Special Vehicles entry, normally raced by Win Percy, who unfortunately is back in the UK attending the funeral of his son. Tragedy for the Percy family, so Crompton gets out of commentary mode and into the race car today.
Well, Bondi's got it cranked up again this weekend. He's done a superb job there to get right on the tail of John Bow so early in the race. You recall the Lakeside race, it took a number of laps before he was considered a contender, but here he is splitting the Shell team on the second lap of the race here at Mallala. That's a tremendous run so early in the race.
Certainly is, and John Bow could be just one to watch. It was very impressive here at the circuit last year. And there's the split over the field. There's Bow going through. Colin Bond and the Caltech's number 8 car trails him. Then right back behind them, of course, Dick Johnson in 17, who was up there running in third, but has gone back through the pack somewhat. Madecki away, coming up behind Johnson at this stage and taking Seaton and also Larry Perkins with him. And there's problems already. First one in the pit area is, in fact, Alan Jones in the number 20 Benson and Hedges Sierra.
You can't win a sprint race in the pits, Michael. If they have to stop, it's the end of the day for him. You can say, cheerio. There's no way you can get back out and do anything.
And Tony Longhurst now under a lot of pressure from Mark Skaife in the GT-R.
You notice the shortcut that Mark's taking there, and that's the traction he's got. That's fairly loose marbles there. One would describe it as not exactly part of the circuit, but he was able to plant it in there on the inside line and just do what he wanted. A little power oversteer on the exit of that corner, but nothing that he hasn't got under control.
He certainly does appear to have it under control, and what an outstanding debut so far for the new Nissan GT-R model. There's the gap back to Mark Skaife, who runs in second. Longhurst is third. John Bow is fourth. Fifth is Colin Bond in car number 8, and he's moved right up behind John Bow at this stage of the race, and there's Dickie Johnson keeping them both company.
Well, John seems to be in a spite of trouble here. I don't believe that Colin should be able to just fly by him at that rate. That looks like a bit of a problem for the number 18 car.
That's a very alert piece of driving there from Colin Bond as we take our Dunlop race cam riding with Dick Johnson. He's sitting in behind his teammate John Bauer, and he's watching Colin Bond run away from him. You see the crowd off to the left, and a huge crowd here at Mallala Raceway in South Australia. Dick running in 6th position on the scoreboard at the moment.
Well, I think Dick might be very cognizant of what took place at Lakeside, Michael, and quite prepared to just make sure he gets gradual heat into his tires, not go out there and thrash them into the ground like a lot of us did at Lakeside. And he could be just playing it cool, although he wouldn't want to be going too much cooler.
That problem that John Bauer appeared to have, it looks like as if it might have gone away because Bauer's now back on the pace again.
Phil Ward in the Mercedes, doing some work also for Munro and for the Heart Foundation. Car's ailing in the pits at the moment, though.
I was just checking his blood pressure.
The real scrap of this race at the end of the back straight, we'll show it to you shortly, and here it is. It's Peter Brock. He's still got plenty of smoke. We saw all that at Lakeside and couldn't believe that the car just ran all day like that.
I think it'll continue today as well. I guess it's not an engine problem as such. It's just a mixture setting that they've got with their engine management system. A very long exhaust system that runs all the way out to the tail of the car. And on the deceleration, when he's got his foot on the brake pedal, a bit of the fumes are gathering in the exhaust system. When he hits the gas again, we're seeing a fairly dramatic puff. Yeah. I don't believe it's a mechanical problem.
It's nothing like the ads, though. The car runs so clean. Into the next turn.
Careful.
There's Peter Brock coming out of the turn, and you can see very clearly in a straight line the Nissan GT-R is just going straight after Peter Brock. A lot of people would be asking why wouldn't Jim Richards be debuting the car today in place of Mark Skaife? Well, it's the strategy of team manager Fred Gibson, who believes the championship is just so important to Jim Richards, who starts today equal on points, 64 apiece for he and Dick Johnson. And they didn't believe that the car would go full distance without some sort of a problem.
Well, during the week in qualifying, the GTR has had its problems. It broke a hub in the wheel, which forced it to have a few problems during qualifying. And with that, they are hoping today that perhaps it can run the distance, but of course it hasn't run a full practice session yet here at Mallala, so it's really an unknown quantity about how far the car can go.
Look at this, Allan. He's just been able to haul Peter in. That's
the shame of it. Well, I might say shame of it. Good luck to them. Nissan Corporation have worked hard and gone through all the prerequisites that are required under the international racing regulations to develop this car. Freddie Gibson and his team have been working night and day for the last at least 8 months to get it to this stage, and they're up against world-class competition here. They don't have this type of competition in Japan, and this car is going through its baptism of fire here at Mallala today.
That's absolutely right. We're following Peter Brock, and the young man stalking him at the moment is Nissan's Mark Skaife in the new four-wheel steer twin-turbo GTR model number 2. He needs a straightaway to work on him, and watch this now as they come round the loop. Skaife will try and work his way to the outside, or if he goes to the inside, he'll need that much more acceleration. This stage he's going to sit right in behind Brock.
Well, Peter doesn't have to give him a wide berth. He's quite entitled to take the lines he's doing. But if Mark gets a chance under brakes at the end of the back straight, at the closing distance that he's got at the moment, well, the rate of acceleration you can see there from the mobile car is still quite significant. I don't think it's going to be a walk-by, but he's certainly close enough to be in the slipstream and take advantage of any opportunities that the length of the back straight is going to give him momentarily.
Watch this now as Peter Brock, Skaife gets to the outside. Brock is really throwing some dust and some soot. Thought he had a barbecue or a Bunsen burner working there for a while. He was really lighting up. Now this is where you'll see Skaife pick up the pace.
Yes, he'll be on his tail shortly, about the middle of the kink in the back straight, although Brocky's pace is good on the back straight. And he's not going to throw it away here. I think Mark might have to just bide his time a little bit, but it's significant to see the demoralizing effect that Peter Brock had on the opposition in qualifying. He set a great lap time of 10.5, and the distance between him and Longhurst, which is the gap between the two Sierras, is really quite considerable, and I'd say Brocky's doing everything that he was capable of showing from his practice time. The only opposition he's got here is from the new Nissan GTR.
Actually, this scrap continues and will stay with it. In the meantime, Colin Bond has been able to get by Tony Longhurst, moved to third, Longhurst fourth. Bow is fifth, Johnson is sixth, Medecky is seventh.
Even though Skaife has made up a fair bit of ground on Brock from the start, Brock certainly is doing a great job to hold Skaife at bay at this stage.
They're the four-wheel drive characteristics of the machine.
They can throw it around, Michael, and that's just one of the attributes of the car. They haven't got that device in the car because it's useless. It is a nice technical advance, and they're obviously the drivers are going to make full use of it.
Allan Jones in the pits after retiring.
The first retiree, Allan Jones, in the B&H number 20 car. In the meantime, we're following this great scrap with Brocky up front in the Mobile Sierra, and right behind him is Mark Skaife in the new four-wheel drive twin-turbo Nissan GT-R. Here they work. The sweeper coming down this long straight. Stop-start turn coming up the right-hander.
He's quite close. I think probably it's fair to say that Peter's a little bit slower through the corners here, but only a frazzle. Mark is certainly getting as close as he can without touching him. There's no need to touch him.
No, none whatsoever. Watch if you can get Brock set up here. Brock is obviously using the right-hand side of the circuit here as the exit of the turn. If you stay there, you don't give Skaife an inside chance at you.
No, and he'll fade a little bit to the right here, although not too dramatically.
Just to make sure he stays behind him. And then try and stay to the inside here as they sweep down the back straight.
A little bit of traffic driving there by Peter. He did the right thing. Box Mark in. Well, that's life in the fast lane. When you're in front, you take the advantages as you can.
Absolutely. And Mark might learn something out of this afternoon, because Brock will not give him an easy run to the flag. Uh-oh. Watch horsepower now as young Skaife guns the Nissan down the inside. We'll have to try and outbrake him. Will he what?
He did, passed and outbraked him. I think that's...
Now it's going to be interesting to see how far the Nissan is able to pull away from Brock now that he's got ahead of him.
Well, I don't think that you're going to see them try to stretch the car and brake the car to see if it is breakable.
Well, let's not forget Peter's a candidate in the championship. Certainly Mark Skaife isn't with the new car, and this is a commanding position that Brocky's got himself in, and he's not going to throw away a race now chasing this one in any silly fashion. He's got a good gap on Tony Longhurst in first of the other Sierras.
There's your gap. Mark Skaife leads. Peter Brock is in second. Here's the gap back to... No, that's not third. That's Faulkner in the Toyota. There's Colin Bond. He's running third in the Celtic Sierra. A fair gap then to John Bow, who's fourth. Dick Johnson is fifth. And then right back behind them, Andrew Medecky was running in sixth spot in the second of the Brock cars. Still is. Then followed by Larry Perkins.
And Longhurst has...
And Dick Johnson through on John Bow.
And welcome back to Mallala Raceway in South Australia. We're looking at this fabulous scrap for... and there's a touch there between Andrew Medecky, who's put it upside down after coming into contact with John Bow.
And then Bow's gone over the back, and Jim Richards appeared to might have just touched the back of John Bow's car.
That was bad luck. Andrew Medecky says, how on earth did that happen?
And such a slow speed, Michael. It was one of those freak deals, and I hope he's got everything switched off in there, because these things have a habit of just catching fire after it all seems to be nice and dormant.
Let's have a look at this.
Light tap here.
There was just a tap that got Bow around. Yeah, you think the Bow would have been the one, but he's caught the front wheel, I think, of Bow's car, or the flaring.
Ricochet, as he came across, ricocheted, must have been just at the right point of leverage, and flipped Medecky over.
Andrew was
incredible.
Andrew was out of the car very quickly. He looks at another bent forward Sierra and says, why me?
Yes, well, that's a fair amount of damage when they go over on the roof.
That was from race cam, as we had our Dulux Auto Colour race cam riding on the top of Glenn Seaton's car, which gave you an indication of how quickly it happened. So Andrew Medecky takes the long walk back to the pits. Well, here at Mallala, it's not so long.
Well, nobody likes to see the cars getting damaged, and here's a potential black flag situation if John doesn't have to come in under his own volition. It's every indication that the officials will say, no, he's going slow enough, he's not likely to be dragging that around for too much longer. And actually going slow enough, I think he's got alignment problems of his own problem.
It would appear that Chris Landman going through there in the bow repairs SKYLINE as Johnny Bow in car number 18. Bit of a shortcut there, heading back into the pit lane. After that incident with Andrew Medecky that saw Medecky's car flip. So a bit of work to be done by Neil Lowe and the boys in the Shell Ultra team. They'll have him underway as quickly as they possibly can. In the meantime, Mark Skaife continues to lead the race from Peter Brock. Colin Bond runs in third. Dick Johnson is fourth. Glenn Seaton is now in fifth. Tony Longhurst is sixth. Neil Crompton in seventh. Larry Perkins in eighth. Jim Richards in 9. And there's our race leader, Mark Skaife in car number 2, the new Nissan GTR twin turbo. And opening that gap, try and get a gap for you shortly between he and Peter Brock. You'll be able to see that visually, because they really are starting to spread out. Now this will give you an idea. There's Brock running in second. He hasn't disappeared entirely from Peter Brock. Here's Colin Bond having a great season in the Caltech Sierra, winner of the last round at Lakeside. And here's Dickie Boy in car number 17. Glenn Seaton is the next one back behind him, and here comes Glenn now. Then looks like the challenge of the Holden starting to come into play now. Neil Crompton with Larry Perkins right behind him, Jim Richards and Tony Longhurst. So it hasn't been the happiest of races for Tony Longhurst so far, Alan. He had a share of the front row and now well back in the pack.
Slid back there, I don't know. Could have been overheating, or again, could have been taking it a bit cautious with the tires. The drivers can feel every nuance that is coming through with their tires, and they know that at a certain pace, if they keep hammering it, they're not going to have anything left to hammer. I think Glenn Seaton also is taking it nice and cautiously. He's got the pace. He was doing well in practice. He's got the capacity to go a little bit faster, but I think everybody's a bit gun-shy after Lakeside. You can't win them in the pits, and certainly far better just to nurse the tires that little bit that will get you home without a stop than to have even the most lightning quick stop is going to cost you just on a minute.
This is interesting stuff. We've got Neil Crompton, Larry Perkins following him as they take our Nissan track cam, and sitting right behind them, of course, is Jim Richards in the GTS-R model Nissan, who's following this scrap between the two Commodores. And he's losing out just a touch in some of the spots around the circuit to them. Nice and tight here as Larry says to Crompton, I'll have a bit of this, please.
Can I have that inside line, please? Yes.
Well, the kids had to buckle off, and Perkins has just bolted the blue.
And I think we got a bit of a problem with this Commodore, a bit more than there's something. Something, of course, being a wheel. And
that looks like off a Sierra. That's
a Johnson wheel.
Johnson wheel.
For sure. And since Dick is the only car, could have been off John Bow's car.
No, I'd say it's probably off Dick Johnson's car.
It has to be, with 18 is still in the pits. So that's bad luck there and we don't see that very often.
And Dick Johnson was lying in fourth spot at the time when we're presuming that in fact he has lost a wheel.
No, he hasn't.
Dick Johnson? No?
But that's very interesting, because with John Bow in the pits, how did one of those Johnson wheels get out there?
Well, that's a good trick.
We'll see if we can find out for you. But in the meantime, Dick Johnson, car number 17. It was a scare for a moment. We saw the wheel and no race car. But Dick is running in third.
And still holding his championship points in good shape as long as as long as Jim Richards stays where he is. And Jim's still got quite a number of places to get by. He was only 11th on the grid, and a lot of traffic for him to get by. And last year the SKYLINEs were running particularly well towards the last half of the race, and there's plenty of the event to unfold still for Jim, but it's hurting him to get by these bigger cars.
Certainly is today. And here is Jim Richards coming up. Moment of truth. He zips through. Crompton gives way to Jim Richards. He's got Tony Longhurst back behind him. And they're coming up on a couple of the slower cars at this moment. So Richards is free. We'll go chasing after Larry Perkins. the meantime, the order remains the same. Sorry, Neil's been passed in every turn now.
Well, he realizes that he's got a slightly slower car in those areas. He's not being pedantic about it. He's taking tit for tat and gone back and had another go there. Some drivers won't do that at all, and you can't say that the fellow's being unsporting. I don't disagree with that at all.
Order still the same. Mark Skaife in the Nissan GTR leading from Peter Brock. Colin Bond is third. Dick Johnson is fourth. Glenn Seaton runs at fifth. Larry Perth is sixth. Jim Richards is seventh. Neil Crompton is eighth. Tony Longhurst is ninth.
Well, seventh at this stage of the race is still a reasonable position, and bear in mind the lead cars are only going to go slower, so if Jim maintains this ever so slowly creeping through the field at this rate, he's still going to be up there at the finish and get himself a good swag of points.
And Chris Lambden rounds out the 10 in the Bow Repairs Nissan, so he's also running in touch with the top boys today. Here at the moment, Neil Crompton and Tony Longhurst. Been a busy day for Mark Skaife, who leads the race in the GTR model, also the winner of the Gold Star Championship race here today, the open wheeler, so he's put plenty of laps in at Mallala. Neil Crompton also driving in both categories today. Didn't finish the Gold Star race, but at least he's in there having a fight with Tony Longhurst in the Tourers.
As the race goes on, also tyres are probably going to play a big role. It's been the talk of Mallala all week. Peter Brock, since Lakeside, has done about 2,000 kilometres in practice to try and develop a new Bridgestone tyre, and Bridgestone have got a new tyre here, so how the tyre lasts during the race will be interesting.
Well, if anybody can nurse it, it'll be him, and you only have to give Brocky a good tyre to start with, and he'll do the rest.
Actually, he's logged more Ks than the Leyland brothers since Lakeside.
Yes.
Here's our Dulux Auto Colour race cam. Sits atop the Glenn Seaton Peter Jackson entry. Give you an idea of the circuit here at Mallala, which is very, very tight, very bumpy, and very narrow.
Quite narrow, and Michael, if you get just a little bit wide, the sand might look pretty on camera, but it's very slippery, and just one wheel off, and you're in a lot of trouble here. Up the back straight, through the gears. The ratios be touching just on about 140 miles an hour, say, through there. On the brakes for the tight right-hander at the end of the back straight. Down to first gear in the case of a Sear. 5-speed gearbox. Very pretty car that Glenn has prepared. Always looks immaculate. Credit to his sponsors.
There's Larry Perkins. He's been in for a pit stop. Running on the 12 wheels today, was telling me. There's our race leader. Everyone expected the car to be under a lot of pressure.
Oh, there's a sight we don't see.
And he's gone off.
No, something's happened there. Absolutely.
Now, whether or not it's just a lock-up and he's going to come through the sand trap, or whether he's given it away.
Can't quite make up his mind whether it's going or not. It looks like it's still got a bit of traction, but something there with the right rear wheel locked up.
Well, that puts Peter Brock back in front. A seesaw race for Brocky. You saw Mark Skaife bolt past him and then run away into the distance.
Bit of flame coming out of Mobil 1 there. We're running lead-free fuel this year, Michael, and the brew that has been concocted to make these engines stay in one piece is somewhat smoky. I don't think we should cast any aspersions on the fine preparation that goes into the Mobil cars. They're all very sooty engines being run as a result of the lead-free fuel.
There's Mark Skaife. His race is over. He's going via the infield, heading back to the pits. Boy, it was fun while it lasted, and boy, hasn't it shown some potential here today. And I guess the idea of Fred Gibson of putting Jimmy Richards, leaving him in the older car and letting Mark run the experimental race today has really paid off, because if Jim is still in there in the championship hunt, and here is the man that goes back into the lead, Peter Brock. Freddie Gibson, team manager for Nissan, talking to Mark Skaife on the two-way, or to Jimmy Richards. Welcome back to Mallala Raceway. 25 laps completed in the 50-minute round 6 of the Shell Ultra Touring Car Championship. Peter Brock continues to lead, but running in second is Bond, B-O-N-D. Colin Bond, the winner of the Lakeside Round, who is absolutely storming after Peter Brock as they head down to the right-hander at the sweeper.
Well, he's certainly in contention here, Michael. There's no question about just hanging around and hoping for the best. This is a determined challenge. Brocky did a slight brake lock up there at the end of the back straight going into the hairpin, and if you're looking at his car, you'd think there is no way that it's going to stay in one piece, but I'm convinced that that's only a mixture setting that they have on their fuel injection system, and it's just using a fair amount of petrol today. And not a mechanical problem, but certainly if Bondi's not careful, he's going to get asphyxiated there being so close, and that muffler is coming straight out the back of Peter's rear of his Sierra. But here, a real challenge, and the halfway distance, both drivers will want to be tippy-toeing to a degree. You can see they're not throwing and sliding the cars in these sweeping corners. They're trying to protect their tires, and they're going to have to, because it's not so much a wear factor with the tires, Michael, that becomes a worry in a circuit like this where you're jumping on the brakes every 2 seconds, but the control of the car under brakes. The tires actually turn a bit like marshmallows. They get warm. They're not that they're really wearing out, but they're just getting such a hammering that they get a little bit soggy. And braking at these things at full bore, I mean, there's only 2 positions in a race car, flatten the gas and flatten the brakes. And when they're flat on the brakes, if the tires start to get soggy, then that's when the movement in the chassis locks up the brakes, either front or rear, generally the rear.
At this stage, Peter Brock coming up on the inside of Chris Lambden and the Bow Repairs Nissan. Put a lap on Chris. Bond closes up just a little under brakes, though Peter was getting away from him in the straight that time.
Chris Lambden running one of Fred Gibson's ex-cars from last year. Has done a good job, very nicely prepared and presented, and his second year of full Group A professional racing, and doing a good job for what he has.
Not only that, you notice that I think he probably caught sight of Colin Bond on the entry to that corner, realised that he made life difficult, then moved wide so that Bond would have an easy exit. It was good driving on Chris's part. Several. Colin Bond in the Caltech Sierra. 1-2 today at Mallala so far. We've just gone past half-race distance.
I think Peter's just laid on a couple of laps here for Colin's benefit to say, don't get any illusions about my position. I'm staying in the lead, and if you can match this pace, you're welcome to pass me. He's opened up at least 3 car lengths from what we can see here in commentary position, and I think he's just happy to let Bondi know, look, you're not retiring me yet.
And while we look at Peter Brock, the top 5 is Brock, Bond, Johnson, Seaton, and Jim Richards is up into 5th spot.
Okay, well, Dick's done a good job running in 3rd. He's got Glenn Seaton fairly close to him as they reel off another lap. Come down to the left-hander. And as Allan said last lap, you notice they're guiding the cars through that turn a little more now. They're not skating them all over the racetrack. Here's Dick Johnson, car number 17, in the Shell Ultra High Sierra. He goes along past the pits, and Dick's been a busy boy in the United States the last few weeks. Welcome back, Dick.
Thanks, Mike.
Great to have you back, and I guess you're enjoying all this.
Well, it's a little bit different than what I'm used to over there, I tell you. It's like running at the playscape deal.
Tell me this, it's a sort of track that keeps you fairly busy.
Oh, busy? Yeah. But there you go, more gear changes than you would sort of driving through the supermarket.
How's the car feel at this stage of the race?
Like a bowl of custard. It's a bit iffy because the old tyres got fairly hot. I got Seaton right up my clacker here.
Why don't I let you go and get rid of him, and then I'll come back and talk to you.
Okay.
Dickie Johnson wasn't the best tyre to probably want to talk to Dick. It only takes a second, and Glenn Seaton is on the boil in the Peter Jackson Sierra. He wants a share of 3rd place.
Well, Glenn had been having a good run throughout Saturday. He had good form yesterday in qualifying, and I'm not surprised to see him up there.
We take our Dulux Auto Colour race cam, and this is a long past the pits coming up to the right-hander. Dick goes to the right-hand side of the racetrack, just trying to make sure there was not an inside challenge there, and the shell car gets away pretty quickly out of there.
Good rate of acceleration, Michael. They've always had that. Neil Lowe's got some very good gearing in these cars, and they run the engine hard and able to take advantage of a very good rate of acceleration. Not to say that Seaton's car is exactly dragging the chain there either.
He's not, but as Dick aptly described it, like a bowl of custard.
Yeah, that's the feeling I was trying to describe. I think I had marshmallows.
Yeah. There's Glenn Seaton, young driver with a ton of potential, doing a good job in the Peter Jackson Ford Sierra. So once again, we take this great shot. Now, Dulux Auto Colour race cam sits right on top of the roof of the Sierra. There you can see the crowd off to the left as I go across the start-finishing line here at Mallala. Then it's a quick kink to the right, then a kink back to the left. Seaton just putting the nose down there on the inside. He wasn't going anywhere there.
No, he overcalculated there, and it cost him. A gentleman and a sporting driver. I don't believe I can recall him hitting anyone in his career, and certainly not on purpose. And he did brake a little bit there just to make sure he didn't run into the back of Dick's car, and it cost him a couple of car lengths, well, at least one car length.
Well, he's picking that up again. Race order still unchanged, with Peter Brock with about a 2-3 car break over Colin Bond. And then here is the scrap for third, coming through the sweeper, heading down the back straight. See how good Glenn is under brakes here.
He's definitely harassing Dick. I don't think there's any question that once he got by, he'd open up a gap here. I think there's no question that Dick's just marginally holding him up through the twisty bits.
Chris Lambden's just ahead of them, and he might cause a few problems when they catch up, when they start to get up into the slower traffic.
Well, they'll be able to get through the next two turns without running onto Chris, and I'd say they'll probably have the inside line for the next turn, particularly if Chris can see them closing on him at a rate of knots. But he's driving his own race. He's been quite good for the rest of the drivers, moving over, giving them racing room. And here they are on the exit now to the pit turn, so they won't be held up by Chris Lambden. He's left the gap open here on the inside, has he?
Not quite. He's got his little bit problem. That corner's tighter. We call it a kink, but it's definitely got plenty to think about when you arrive on it. But he's moved over for them at the hairpin.
This is great.
He's not going to do him any good on that side of the track. And Peter Brock's playing it exactly by the book. He's placing his car exactly where he should. It's the passing car must do it on the outside. Inside where possible if given the opportunity, and I don't see any reason why Peter will be asleep at the wheel knowing he's got a competitor like Colin Bond trying to get by.
He's just closing off all the options at the moment. But there's nothing wrong with that.
That's what you have to do. It may seem like being unsporting, but it isn't. It's only unsporting when you're being lapped.
That's
and
true.
You're not in the race at all, and you hold people up in an unsporting manner.
Well, the whole name of the game is winning, and that's what Peter Brock's tried to do, and Colin Bond at this stage. Lap still on the side of Colin to mount a challenge. Well, as they have cleared out well and truly from Dickie Johnson.
Yes, they're going around the sweeper at the back of the pits, and Johnson and Seaton past the start-finish line.
It was a bit untidy that time for Brocking, and here's Bondy down the outside.
Another go.
Having another go.
He needs to be able to do that on the inside and then have the opportunity under braking to guard this corner. As long as Brocky can stay, this starting to get...
Here he goes, down on the inside.
This could be it. No. Boy, he's really...
Brock's car, I don't know if that's the sound of it, a little off the boil. There's one car went past one of those mics there a moment ago, sounded very, very off. But this is still going a little too quick. Bond is really on the move here as they come down the back straight. If he can work his way to the outside, which is the inside here on Peter Brock. Can't do it this time.
These corners are particularly hard. They have to throw the vehicle from one side to the other. Tight little left, right, left, and a lot of strain on the tires. But Brocky's held the lead there. I don't see any chance for Colin to snip by on the old pit straight. And here's where he's got to be a little bit careful. A bit wide again. Colin trying to come through on the inside. Not going to do him a lot of good there. He really needs to be.
No, it's settled down again. So Brock. Oh, Bond up this time. There's just enough of a gap. What a move from Colin Bond, who goes through and takes the lead. Can it be two in a row? For the Sydney veteran who slips down the inside of Peter Brock. Now comes up on the lusty Commodore.
Well, that was a nice move. He didn't appear to hit him. They just went up alongside, gave him a cushion.
Mallala Raceway, Colin Bond continues to lead round 6 of the championship from Peter Brock and Dick Johnson. And don't forget the four-wheel warfare continues on 7 a fortnight from today, when the penultimate round of the Shell Ultra Series will be held at Perth's Wanneroo Raceway. All the action across Australia between 5 and 6 Eastern. And of course the grand final on Sunday, July 15th at Sydney's Oran Park Raceway, when the title goes down to the wire. What a title series it's been this year. And it's far from over yet. There's Jimmy Richards running with our Nissan race cam. Jim is in 4th at the moment.
Right, and definitely got Dick in his sights. But speaking of sights, Dick's got Brocky in his sights. In fact, it's just past him. Not on camera at the moment, but has just passed Brocky to take second spot. Here he is now coming through the S's. Peter looks as if he's slowing substantially. May have to pit. I think he's got engine problems more than tire problems, but that puts Dick Johnson up in second spot and in a nice place to capitalize on 6 points. But
and Glenn Seaton has also dropped out of the top 5. He's actually gone to the pits.
Well, that leaves Jimmy in 4th spot to come up here and take whatever he can from Dick Johnson. It'll be 6 points for second and 4 points for third. Not too much of a loss of points on it for Jim's point of view.
Still 2's 2, and when you're dead even, you don't really need to give Dick a break on you. Like someone has to give today at Mallala. So if Johnson has got tyre problems and his car isn't all that hot, it seems then that Peter Brock's been doing a hell of a job, as you saw.
He's just out of control there. I say out of control. He's never out of control, but his car is certainly making life difficult for him. That rear tires have gone on him, and with all of the G-forces going through the back corner flat out, the fastest part of the circuit, you could see there how he was very skitterish under brakes. Definitely hard-in-mouth material.
We've only got about a lap or so to go in the championship race from Adelaide's Mallala Raceway. Dick Johnson on camera at the moment, car number 17 going through. Time almost up for the championship race here today. But will there be enough time for Jim Richards to haul in Peter Brock? He is storming all over him as they go down towards the pit straight. Here's Johnson in car number 17. He is just ahead of them, putting a lap on car number 39. But Colin Bond, talk about the veterans coming back with a vengeance in the Caltech Sierra.
You know, age has got nothing to do with ability, Michael. I wish you'd start getting used to this idea.
We're in the same club, pal.
Yeah, we're all in the same club, and remember, Colin and I drove together.
That's true.
I know the aspersions you're casting. He's done a great job here, and a superb job for Caltex, who have supported him for many years. When life was not so easy, but he's persevered with his own engines. They build them themselves in Sydney. They've worked on an Australian management system, and certainly proving the day here today.
Last corner coming up now as Colin Bond does it 2 from 2 in the Caltech Sierra. He is going to pick up the win here today at Mallala. Dick Johnson in car number 17 getting across the line. What a fabulous second for Johnson. And it looks like third man home is going to be Jimmy Richards. So Richards gets across in third, and that will give fourth to the ailing Peter Brock, who just limps across the line now. A sensational win for Colin Bond in car number 8, 2 in a row winner at Lakeside at round 5 and winner here today. Check him out for you on the Shell race score. Bond is your race winner from Mallala. Second spot goes to Dick Johnson, third to Jimmy Richards.
Couple of laps.
Yes, I got a message from Fred to say that the Brocky had a tyre that was falling off the car, so I sort of tried real hard to get past him because obviously that meant I was behind Dickie here.
Still, and a good showing from the other car as well.
Yes, very good, very good. You know, that's looking good for the last 2 rounds.
Dickie Johnson second today, and you came from the clouds. You had more opposition than you could handle there for a while.
Actually, all I was worried about is just staying together and getting to the finish because, you know, I just need points to win the championship. And, like, when you get things like the Dickie falling over and stuff like that, it's a bit of a worry, you know.
The car went well?
The car went really well. You know, our tyres sort of fell away a little bit and then stayed at a level which was obviously better than some of the other cars in front of us at the time.
Well, the championship is still alive, and good luck when you go to Wanneroo.
Thanks, pal. I'll be trying.
Okay, mate. And the fella who's done it again, 2 races and 2 wins. Great drive from Colin Bond.
Well, it was the hardest race I've done for a long time, Mike. I must admit, Brocky gave us a battle up there. I thought that his tyres might go away, and we just played it cool, I guess, and played it to the moment and got through. But I would like to thank Caltrix, of course, and the boys.
You got it right this time.
We had a miss in the car after the warm-up this morning, and the boys only fixed it 15 minutes prior to the start, so I think the credit goes to them.
Well, of course, now you're down to 3rd in the championship. It's still alive, and Wanneroo you must be looking forward to.
We're going to plan to win every race from here on in, Mike, so I don't know what the rest are going to do.
Well, Tom Smith, our good friend from Shell, about to put the sash on Colin Bond. And, of course, Colin Bond is the big winner. Don't forget, of course, the next round of the Shell Ultra Australian Touring Car Championship comes your way from Wanneroo in Western Australia. We look forward to your company a fortnight from today.